Imagine opening the most prestigious newspaper in your country and seeing a headline claiming that archaeologists have just unearthed human skeletons over 10 feet tall. Not once, not twice, but dozens of times over the course of decades. Now imagine that these discoveries were documented, photographed, witnessed by respected scientists, and published in newspapers like the New York Times. And now imagine that every single one of those skeletons, all that evidence, simply vanished. Erased from existence, wiped from history, and the institution responsible for that disappearance? None other than the Smithsonian, the official guardian of history and science in the United States. Sounds insane? Then you need to hear this story until the very end, because the truth may be even more disturbing than you expect. If you want to uncover more truths that have been hidden from humanity and question the official version of history, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Let's uncover the mysteries they don't want you to know. Let's start from the beginning, because this story is long, complex, and filled with twists that will make you question everything you think you know about human history. It was the 19th century, an age of exploration and discovery in the Americas. Settlers, farmers, and adventurers were spreading across the vast territory of the United States, pushing into lands that had previously been inhabited only by native peoples. And as they moved forward, they began to encounter something extraordinary, something that didn't fit within their understanding of the continent's past. Across the American landscape, especially throughout the Midwest and the Mississippi Valley, there were thousands of mysterious earthen structures, massive mounds, some shaped with perfect geometric precision, others formed like animals, stretching across acres of land. These were not natural formations. That much was obvious. Someone had built them, someone with knowledge, organization, and enough manpower to move enormous amounts of earth and create structures that endured for thousands of years. European settlers referred to the creators of these structures as the Mound Builders. But who were they? The Native American tribes living in those regions had no clear memory or consistent oral tradition identifying who built the mounds. Some spoke of an ancient race that existed before them, people who were different, larger, more powerful. But these were legends, stories passed down through generations with no concrete proof.
The heart of the world, and the sparks, they carry our prayers to the heavens above.
Until excavations began. Throughout the 19th century, both amateur and professional archaeologists started digging into these mounds, searching for artifacts and trying to uncover the identity of their mysterious builders. And what they found was shocking. Alongside tools, pottery, and everyday artifacts, they uncovered skeletons. But these were not ordinary skeletons. They belonged to individuals of extraordinary height, far beyond what would be considered normal for any known human population. Reports began to appear everywhere. In 1856, workers in Wheeling, West Virginia, reportedly discovered a skeleton measuring over 10 feet tall. In 1870, in Minnesota, bones were found that were said to belong to a man nearly 11 feet in height. In 1883, in Morrow County, Ohio, excavators uncovered 3 skeletons inside a mound, each measuring between 9 and 10 feet tall. And these are just a few examples among dozens, possibly hundreds, of similar reports. What makes this even more striking is that many of these discoveries were not made by treasure hunters or questionable explorers. They were documented by professionals, witnessed by multiple individuals, and reported in respected newspapers of the time. The New York Times, one of the most credible newspapers in the United States, published several of these accounts between the 1850s and the 1920s. These were not sensational tabloid stories. They were treated as legitimate scientific news. One of the most well-documented cases occurred in 1912, when Beloit College in Wisconsin led an excavation near Lake Delavan. According to reports from the time, more than 200 skeletons were uncovered, many belonging to individuals over 8 feet tall, with unusually large skulls and robust bone structures. The discovery was so significant that it attracted national attention, with newspapers across the country reporting on the so-called Giants of Wisconsin. But here's the problem. Where are these skeletons today? Where are the hundreds of giant bones supposedly unearthed over decades? Why isn't a single complete skeleton of one of these giants on display in any museum? Why did all this evidence simply vanish? According to many researchers and theorists, the answer points to a single institution: the Smithsonian. Founded in 1846, the Smithsonian Institution quickly became the leading authority in archaeology, anthropology, and natural history in the United States.
This grand institution, dedicated to the increase and diffusion of knowledge, opens its doors today.
If you discovered something of historical or scientific importance, the Smithsonian was where it went. They had the funding, the experts, and the credibility to study, preserve, and display major discoveries.
We need to contain it.
Naturally, many of the giant skeletons were sent there. And then they disappeared. There are no official records, no photographs in the archives, no skeletons in the collections. It's as if these discoveries never happened at all. But how is that possible when we have dozens of newspaper articles, excavation reports, and documented eyewitness accounts? The most controversial and most unsettling theory is that the Smithsonian deliberately destroyed the evidence. And the reason? To protect the dominant scientific narrative of the time, particularly Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, which was gaining influence in academic circles. To understand this, we need to consider the historical context. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, evolutionary theory was reshaping how humanity understood its origins. The prevailing idea was that humans evolved gradually from smaller, less developed ancestors over millions of years, eventually becoming modern Homo sapiens. It was a clean, linear narrative that fit well with the fossil evidence being uncovered in Africa and Europe. But skeletons of giant humanoids didn't fit that model. If humans over 10 feet tall had lived in the Americas thousands of years ago, it raised uncomfortable questions. Were they a different species, an unknown evolutionary branch? Or worse, evidence that human history was far more complex and mysterious than science was prepared to admit. To protect the dominant theory and avoid public confusion, a decision was allegedly made: remove the evidence that didn't fit. Destroy the bones, dispose of the skulls, erase the records. And so, over the course of decades, hundreds of giant skeletons allegedly vanished from the Smithsonian's archives.
We categorically deny these allegations. There is absolutely no truth to the claims being made against the organization.
This is a serious accusation, and the Smithsonian strongly denies it. In official statements, the institution claims it has never destroyed archaeological evidence and that there is no conspiracy to hide the existence of giants. They argue that many 19th century reports were exaggerated, based on inaccurate measurements, or simply false. Skeletons that appeared gigantic were often just tall individuals within normal human variation, or bones misinterpreted due to limited anatomical knowledge at the time. But is that explanation satisfying? When you have dozens of consistent reports, published in reputable newspapers, witnessed by multiple people, all describing skeletons far beyond normal human variation, can it all really be dismissed as error or exaggeration? And it's not just skeletons. There are reports of skulls with unusual anatomical features, double rows of teeth, cranial capacities far larger than normal. There are descriptions of tools and artifacts found alongside the bones, some crafted with techniques and materials that suggest a level of sophistication that shouldn't have existed at the time. All of it disappeared, without documentation, without a convincing explanation. Some researchers began looking for patterns and noticed that many giant discoveries were linked to the Mound Builders. And when you examine these structures closely, something remarkable becomes clear. Many are built with astronomical precision, aligned with celestial events like solstices and equinoxes. Some display complex geometry that suggests advanced knowledge of mathematics and engineering. How could a civilization considered primitive achieve this? Native American legends add another layer to the mystery. Many tribes tell stories of a race of giants that inhabited the land before them. The Paiute of Nevada speak of the Siteka, red-haired giants who lived in caves and were fierce warriors. The Comanche tells stories of giants who roamed the plains. The Choctaw speak of the Nahulo, a race of white giants who once lived in the south. These stories are too consistent, spread across tribes with no contact between them, to be dismissed as pure myth. And the phenomenon of giants isn't limited to the Americas. Cultures around the world have legends of giants. The Greeks spoke of the Titans. Norse mythology tells of the Jotun. The Bible mentions the Nephilim, giants who once walked the earth. Did all these cultures independently invent the same stories? Or were they preserving a collective memory of something real? Some theorists take this even further, suggesting that giants were not simply tall humans, but a different species altogether, perhaps even of non-human origin. It's an extreme idea, no doubt. But when conventional science offers no clear explanation and anecdotal evidence continues to surface, it's not hard to see why some people go that far. Still, the core question remains: why the lack of transparency? If these skeletons were merely tall humans within normal variation, why not display them and educate the public? Why not publish detailed scientific studies explaining the finds? Why did all the evidence vanish without a trace? In 2014, there was even a supposed lawsuit against the Smithsonian, claiming the institution had destroyed giant skeletons to cover up the truth about American history. The story went viral, with sensational headlines claiming the Smithsonian had been forced to admit the destruction of thousands of skeletons. But the story turned out to be a hoax, fake news created by a satirical website. There was no real lawsuit, no admission. Yet the fact that this story spread so quickly and was believed by so many people reveals something important: a deep distrust of official institutions and the historical narrative we're given. People sense intuitively that something isn't right, that information is being hidden, that the history taught in schools is incomplete. And maybe it is. Maybe human history is far stranger, more complex, and more fascinating than we're told. Maybe there were human races or species that rose and vanished, leaving behind fragments we can't fully explain. Maybe advanced civilizations existed far earlier than we imagine, and their traces were erased by time, natural disasters, or in some cases deliberately suppressed by those who prefer a simpler, more controllable story. What we know for certain is that many questions remain unanswered. Why were there so many reports of giants in the 19th century? Why did all these skeletons disappear? Why does the Smithsonian lack clear records of these discoveries? And perhaps the most important question of all, what else is being hidden from us? The truth may be simple and mundane: poorly measured skeletons and exaggerated reports from a less scientific era. Or the truth may be extraordinary: evidence that human history is far richer and stranger than we dare to imagine, and that powerful forces have worked to keep that truth buried. I don't have all the answers. No one does. But what we can do is examine the evidence, ask difficult questions, and think critically about what we're told is absolute truth. History is not static. It's constantly rewritten as new discoveries emerge. And perhaps one day we'll finally uncover the definitive answers about the giants who may once have walked the earth. So what do you think? Did the Smithsonian really destroy evidence of giants to protect the dominant scientific narrative? Or were these reports simply exaggerations and misunderstandings from a less rigorous time? Was there truly a race of giants living in the Americas thousands of years ago? Leave your theory in the comments. And if this story unsettled you as much as it did me, share this video. The truth is out there, waiting to be uncovered. And the more people who question, the closer we get to it.